So let me know if this sounds at all familiar to you. You hear something on the street around the corner, so you decide to follow your instincts and see what's going on. You turn that corner and you see a group of people having fun, hanging out, maybe being a little loud, but you understand instinctively that there is a opportunity for some great photographs. So you decide you're going to go for it. But as you approach, your heart rate increases, your hands get a little sweaty, and just the thought of raising up the camera to take a picture, you immediately feel like everybody's going to turn around and have all of their eyes on you, judging you for what you are wanting to do. And that imaginary scenario, that fear, is enough to just walk by completely and leave this potentially perfect opportunity behind. So the question becomes, what are we exactly afraid of, and how can we overcome that fear and use that fear as a tool for growth so that we can create the art that we want to be able to create? So by stepping back and kind of just analyzing what it is we're exactly afraid of is an essential first step to overcoming this fear and this anxiety. And what I realized, I can only speak for myself, is that I made up all of these crazy scenarios in my head about what would happen when inevitably somebody saw me photographing them. They would approach me, they would get loud, they would become confrontational or even violent. And those thoughts alone were enough to literally pass up amazing opportunities for photographs just on the chance that somebody would notice. And I think for a lot of people, that thought alone is enough for them to either find a different way of photographing, which is entirely fine. That doesn't necessarily involve the up close street photography that they maybe want to do. Maybe they shoot at different focal lengths or go, kind of a different route, however that may be. But I knew that for the type of photography that I wanted to do and the stories that I wanted to tell, I was going to have to figure out a way to get over these imaginary scenarios. And what I started to realize as I forced myself to go out again and again and again is that these scenarios that you kind of cook up, or that I kind of cooked up in my head about all of these angry strangers that would kind of surround me in this mob mentality and, be confrontational and angry and yell in my face and whatever, they just never happened. I have had one bad experience in the year or so that I've been doing this, and even then, looking back on it, it really wasn't all that terrible at the end of the day, relatively speaking. So what I did to kind of start to overcome this anxiety and this fear that I had of photographing strangers in public was to do just kind of like a mental checklist when I went out. And how I started is that I had to check my intentions. I first had to know that, hey, at least here in the United States where I'm at, or in most parts of the world, I think Western Europe, street photography in and of itself is not illegal. There is no expectation of privacy when you're in public, so that box was checked off. I didn't have to worry that I was breaking any laws or anything in that regard. Now, the next step after that is your personal and ethical boundaries and lines that you're drawing in the sand. Some people don't like to photograph kids in public. Some people don't like to photograph, people that are down on their luck, the homeless and things like that. When it comes to those type of things, everybody has to be willing to make their own judgment and be able to stand by whatever those judgments are. So after that box was checked off, after that I had to really think to myself, why do I want to go out and photograph people in the streets? Why do I want to be a street photographer? And for me, it was, I like people. I like documenting the spaces around me. I like documenting people kind of in their element, and that was attractive to me. So I knew that in my heart, My motives were clean. I wasn't trying to do anything that was shady or untoward or anything like that. And so that gave me a foundation level of confidence that what I was doing when I was going out was okay. And that, in and of itself, was enough for me to start to feel more confident. So I would recommend that all of you that watch this or in this same situation is to check your intentions and figure out what it is that you want to do and use that as a starting point. After that, once I checked my intentions and I started to build a little bit of confidence in what I was doing and that what I was doing was perfectly okay and acceptable, the next thing that I started to build on was being proud of what I was doing and being proud of what I was trying to accomplish with my camera. What I mean by that is, at least for me, again, I can only speak for my own personal experience, is when I would go out, especially at the beginning, I didn't have that confidence yet. I kind of tried to hide my camera away, maybe down by my side, and just pull it up at the last second, take a quick picture and kind of put it away and try to be sneaky. But the thing is that the sneakier or the more you try to hide it, the more obvious, ironically, the more obvious and the more you stick out in a crowd. People are very good about picking up on others' body language, others, the way they move, the way if they seem shifty or shady or like they're trying to hide something. People are very perceptive. We have to be aware of that when we go out. So if you check your intentions and you're not doing anything wrong, then I had to think to myself and look in the mirror and ask myself, well, why am I trying to hide what I'm doing then? And so I decided to walk upright, keep my shoulders back, smile when somebody looks at me, have my camera kind of out in front of me, don't try to hide it away. I'm a photographer. This is what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not doing anything illegal. So what am I embarrassed about? What am I ashamed about? And by projecting that confidence, even if it's not quite there yet, the old saying, fake it till you make it. By projecting that confidence, people, and being more open, again, ironically, people seem to leave you alone more. Like, oh, here's just a guy with a camera, here's just a guy walking around doing his thing. It's only when we try to hide it and be shifty, that's when things and problems can kind of arise. So be proud of what you're doing. Be proud of the art that you're trying to create. Be proud of who you are and what you're trying to document, whatever that might be. And by just projecting that confidence and having that confidence and building on that alone is going to be able to solve a lot of issues before they even arise. But at the same time, there are situations where somebody may be irritated or upset that their photo was taken. So if that situation does come up, what are you supposed to do? Now, every situation is going to be a little different, but in my experience, what I have found is that the one thing that you absolutely do not want to do is to lie to the person that you just photographed. People are very perceptive. They know when somebody is talking to them and it's all BS and it's all, they're being lied to. So if you photograph somebody and they ask you about it, be honest. That's my number one recommendation, is to just be honest. After that, what I would recommend, or what I did in that one situation I was talking about, is that I tried to explain why I photographed them. This particular situation was, it was in between kind of like two buildings, and just the way the direction the sun was coming down and the light and the shadow, they just happened to walk through, the stereotypical, I'm going to wait for somebody to walk through this patch of light and snap a photograph. That's what I did. That situation was not solved by me explaining that to that person. They were still not happy with that. There are other times where I have been approached and I did explain it. I offered to show them the photograph, and that was more than enough for them to go from suspecting and kind of uncertain about my motives to understanding and kind of leaving that situation on a good note. Offer to show them the picture, that you're not doing anything like creepy or weird, that you're at, this is what I took, this is why I took it. And again, 99 times out of 100, that's going to be more than good enough for most people. If those things don't work out though, this one situation I'm referring back to, I offered to delete the photo, and I did, and that finally was enough for him to kind of leave me alone at that point. You don't technically have to delete the photo because, again, you're not doing anything illegal, but for me, the hassle that I was receiving was not worth the photo that I took. So I just said, you know what, sir, it's never my intention to upset anybody. I apologized. I remember apologizing. I deleted the photo. He wasn't, quote unquote, happy with me, but at that point he left me alone and I kind of continued on my day. But I have to realize that, and that did kind of shake my confidence a little bit, and that fear kind of crept back in. But I have to realize at that point that more likely than not, that guy was just having a bad day and I just caught him at the wrong time, and that's on him, that's not on me. And so once I was able to kind of internalize that message to myself, that I was able to quickly kind of brush that off my shoulders and kind of continue on. But I would be remiss to say that, all of that being said, if something feels off and that fear is just nagging at you, it seems unsafe to take a photograph. Maybe you turned a corner and you went down the wrong street and you're in a kind of a rough part of town or a rough part of the city, and something, again, just feels off. Trust that instinct. Trust your gut. For me personally, no photograph is worth my safety. Again, everybody's line is going to be a little different depending on what you're doing. Trust your gut. I've walked away from situations where I felt unsafe, or I felt like, this could be bad. Another situation that I try to walk very carefully through is anytime there's alcohol involved, any festivals, if I'm walking by any bars, groups of people hanging out with alcohol involved can, as you'd imagine, turn bad very quickly. So trust your gut, trust your instinct, be smart, when you go out, be safe. Obviously, that's most important. So let's do a quick kind of recap. The first thing is, know what we are afraid of and why we are afraid of it. It's typically these imaginary scenarios that are not really ever going to happen, and that by knowing that it's all kind of in our head and it's not based in any type of reality, that alone is enough to be able to give you hopefully a base level of confidence that you can continue to build on. And after that, now that we know what we are afraid of, we can start to overcome that fear. And again, the best way that I started to be able to do that is to check my intentions, check why I was going out in the first place, know that I wasn't doing anything illegal, I'm not doing anything immoral or anything of the sort, and that my intentions were pure and that my intentions were good. And then that alone, again, is another layer of confidence that I was able to build upon. My last tip, last but not least, is that to be able to get over this, or to be able to at least mitigate it so it doesn't impede your progress and keep you from growing, is you got to go out and shoot. You can watch all of the YouTube videos you want, you can read all of the blog posts and imagine how you're going to react in these situations and daydream about all the different ways that these situations can play out. But at the end of the day, you just have to get out and you have to do it. It's going to be a little uneasy at first. It's going to be a little nerve-wracking at first, but it can be done. And again, check that fear. That fear that we have, again, it's all made up in our head. So be proud of what you are. Be proud of what you're doing. Go out and create the best art that you possibly can, and just continue to improve a little bit, day by day, session by session. And you're going to look back in a couple months, in a year, 2 years, 5 years, and you're going to realize and see how much that you've grown. And you can only do that by going out and actually doing the work.